Hi guys, my name is John Gomba. Welcome to Freaky Table. I'm joined here by Yana and Core, the usual culprits. But today we have something very important to talk about and discuss on this table. And it's no news that Naira Marley's concert was cancelled on February 14th. And there's been a whole lot of controversy, discussion, debates online, offline on why that show was cancelled, who was behind it. But right now, we just really want to move forward, move past this whole situation, and how that is going to happen. Well, we have guests in the house to help us with that. Joining us in the studio, he is artist and entrepreneur, Wax Day, as well as multimedia journalist, Eyong Blaise. Guys, welcome, 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 welcome. You guys look amazing. Why are you guys so quiet? Did Naira Marley show up here or
something? when you said you invited me to a freaky table, I thought we're going to be talking about sex.
Oh, well, I see why you dress like that, leaving your body right now.
Well, don't count it out.
After speaking about the Dada guy.
About Naira Marley. And I don't see any weed smokers here too, so like...
Please don't allow the Shubana show. We're okay with this one. Blaise, it's so good to see you.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to share this platform that you guys have, an amazing platform, and also to be here with Wax, an amazing artist. I think we're going to have a fruitful discussion.
Of course. Yeah. Wax, congratulations on the wedding.
Thank you.
Yeah, you look very relaxed now.
And old.
You've aged in marriage. I've always been very relaxed.
You're very, very relaxed. No, you're more relaxed. More. Yeah. You know, there's a touch with wives.
Yeah.
You know.
Really. Happy life, happy wife, happy life.
Your smile is
right?
different.
It's different.
Your mood
fatter.
is different.
You can see that.
You're eating well. It's good. Yana, good to see you. And my dear Zadzi.
Your marine husband.
Good to see you. We all have a very, very interesting thing to talk about today. And everybody has been waiting for this show. In fact, we've been tested to discuss about this. And we are so honored to have both of you here to discuss this. All right, so Naira Marley, first of all, I have to ask, how did you feel? Because we all know that the show didn't happen, unfortunately. How did you feel when you heard that show wasn't happening?
I don't know, I'm not a fan of Naira Marley in particular. I just happen to, as an artist and as a music stakeholder, appreciate all art forms. So I thought the show was going to be a good thing. I was actually come to attend the show, not to enjoy the music, but, to see what was going on and be part of the vibe and, and so I was in limbo on that day, and when I heard it was not happening, I was obviously very disappointed.
When you heard that it didn't happen, did you immediately jump online to find out why, or what was your reaction like?
First of all, when the news broke that the event was not going to happen, there's a lot of confusion. So I thought maybe it was an administrative problem, maybe they didn't have the right papers. So I was trying to gather all the facts and information that I could gather for about the show, because this is. Again, just like Wax Day, I'm not a fan of Naira Marley, but I think art is art and it's beautiful, however shape it comes. And for me, I wanted to see the show happen, and it didn't happen. But immediately, I didn't know what happened, so I was still trying to figure out what really happened, that the show was cancelled.
Right. I know that before I get to my guys here, what really could be the advantages when artists like that, for any foreign artist, gets into the country for shows like this? What does it leave behind for our own industry? Wax, you've organized concerts, you've been part of this thing for so long. What is the advantages of such?
Music is a universal thing. It's a universal language, and music is not meant to be consumed by one people. It's meant to be consumed globally, and it's always a good thing. When we move that culture from place to place. It's educative in a cultural manner, and that is a value, because we unfortunately sometimes in Africa try to limit our values to money and transactional things, whereas culture is a very powerful value. Culture is really the essence of our being, and through cultural exchanges, there's a lot of development that happens. Now, besides that, when an artist such as that comes into the country, what it does is shines a light on that place, on the people, on the artists who are there. So Naira Marley's come to Cameroon, and all of a sudden, all the Malians are following Cameroon. They get to read about the blogs that report. If you're talking about it, they get to read, they get to know the artists that perform alongside him. It creates another economy also for the artists that perform with him. But it's a business venture. even for the organizers, it brings investment into the music industry. So there's sound people that gain from it. There's venues that get paid. There's even the people by the street that sell. There's people that book hotels. People come from different towns to come and enjoy the show. So there's a whole economy around it. But I see place the value of the cultural exchange above everything else, because countries such as America have succeeded to actually dominate the world, not because they are superpowers or they're the most powerful. Might actually go see that America might not be as powerful as it looks, but through culture, through music and other things, they've sold an American dream that is so imposing that we want to go there and give them our money, buy their things, and all of that. So it's very important. And above all, we must also understand that it's a give and take thing. Naira Marley is coming to Cameroon in the same weekend. Daphne was going to Benin. Arbitrary was going to Côte d'Ivoire. I can't count the number of artists that go to countries such as Equatorial Guinea, such as Chad, Central African Republic, Cameroon artists that go perform and come back, every single time, and they get handsome fees for those. So it's really a give and take thing. It's a and it's not something that can be politically regulated without appropriate understanding of the cultural economics, the culture and the economical impact that it has.
Right. I mean, man. Now, just you, right? As in the, you just laid out every fact. I'm just like, oh my God. I mean, Blaise, you were on Twitter, actually lashing out and trying to figure out exactly what was really behind there were so many reasons that people were, poking, posting, discussing, and some of those reasons I probably just have to go. You have non-authorization, where claims that NOB, the organizer, had no authorization, didn't get authorization from the government. There was censorship situation where they said Naira Marley's bad influence to Cameroonian youths. There was also arrogance, I claim arrogance by the organizers. And then there were reports, that is according to Wax, they just recently saying that the reports sent to the presidency by a couple of artists to cancel the show. Which of these reasons were you pushing out, or did you believe?
First of all, because I'm a reporter, until I have sources or I have facts, like none of these were valuable reasons enough. It could be any of this, but I felt like it was a bit too early because when the show was cancelled, there was a lot of information thrown out there, and for me, I thought like most of this was misinformation, because no one really at that point could quickly know what was happening. And when you have someone like CY who has been talking about this for a long time, in a country like Cameroon where politics is very complex, so someone can use that vacuum, what CY has been saying, and does not like what NOB is doing as a business person, and stop the show. So I felt like at that point when this show was cancelled, it was a bit too early to say what exactly has happened. Also, the presidency in Cameroon is accessible through directors and some other people that work there, but it's also very difficult for them to quickly intervene in matters like this.
Yeah.
Because because you know how Cameroon works. Cameroon is, and this show was taking place when on
February 14th.
on a Sunday. Mm-hmm. Typically, if you go to Yaoundé on a Friday, 10 a.m., the bus has left in most cases. So it's a bit tricky to say exactly what has happened. So for me, I felt like at that point, we needed to hear more from the organizers themselves, what actually happened. And I'm still disappointed at this point, because when I followed their Facebook Live that they did first, and then there was network issue, and they ran the show again, they didn't say anything about exactly what happened. And since then, we've had a lot of information of this happened. It could be any of those, truly. I think it could be they didn't have the right papers. They can be a registered entertainment company, but they may not have proper documentation for that day.
Right.
Yeah.
But NOB has organized a couple of concerts before. So isn't it strange that on the day where he's bringing, like, this could be like his biggest music event he's ever organized with, like biggest artist international, that he doesn't get authorization from the DO or from, Ministry of Arts and Culture.
I'm not saying that happened. I'm saying it could be any of this. So it could just be that someone in Buea changed their mind that the event was not going to happen here. It could also be that someone felt that Naira Marley was not good influence to Cameroonians. I think at this point, I followed what he said on social media about the presidency, which I'm not going to dispute because I do not have the facts, but I think we may never know what really happened.
All right, so Wax, back to you. You claim that it was a couple of artists who may have had a hand in this whole cancellation of the Naira Marley concert. How true is that?
What I'm saying is very true. Yeah. I'm talking on authority, So here's my thing. CY is a comedian. Where have you ever heard that a comedian cancels a musical show? Look, somebody asked me but CY said it is. I said CY is a comedian. He's making jokes, and we unfortunately are taking very seriously about an issue that is more serious than it looks. I call it a very serious issue because people might look at face value and say, "Oh, this show was cancelled," but the reality is that our industry is under attack, which means that you could be doing this show here tomorrow, and somebody says, "No, stop this freaky table. It's not allowed." That's the implication of what happened. It means that tomorrow I could organize my show, Stanley couldn't organize the show, and on the day of the show, they say, no, this show is not allowed to happen. So there's no certainty, and when there's no certainty, we're losing investors, we're losing everything. The whole industry is going to be in a state of...
So when you say our industry is attacked, is it the Anglophone industry
no,
or the generally?
Our music industry is under attack. Our music industry is under attack. That's the point. Now, by whom? That's where we need to get. Now, what I spoke under authority to say, and let me be very clear about this, I'm the national coordinator of the musical arts sector in Cameroon. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that, but these things would get reported to me. And in future, it's going to get more organized. When Fally Ipupa's show was announced, there were a lot of artists that got up and said, why are they bringing foreign artists? They're paying 20,000 francs for a bottle of... That caused commotion nationally. It went beyond the Enobi's concert. At the same time, CY was doing his thing, and they were fighting. I didn't care about that. I never got involved in it. It's beneath me to get in that kind of a fight or to even comment about it. So when Enobi was fighting with CY and there was a war of egos and all of that, it was not a national issue. It was not worth our attention, I think. That was their personal Facebook scuffle. It could have ended there. Where it got my attention was the fact that the show was cancelled, because then that is an issue that needs to be addressed. At the same time, when Fally's show was announced, all of us were complaining. And if you go read social media, you'll see there were reports by Ekambi Briand. I've said that before. He gave interviews on TV where he said, this is impossible, it shouldn't happen. That they're bringing artists and spending all our money on them, where we are not getting shows. Ama Piero was going wild in social media groups. The social media groups that actually talk about music issues, that actually powerful, where you find all the power people in those groups, and I'm part of those groups. The other ones like Cameroonian Entitlement, Billboard, the music club, yeah, they're just discussing, but they don't have power. That's the reality. There are groups where the people with power are sitting and they're able to go and take decisions, and they're able to talk to the presidency. They've done it before, and I saw people discussing these things in those groups. So I don't think it's by coincidence that at the same time, I speak with the ministry and they tell me, oh, there's a message from our hierarchy. Not the ministry. It came from hierarchy, from the presidency, that we should limit the shows that international artists are doing.
So how come that didn't affect Fally's show? Because if I thought the whole squabble was coming from...
The thing is, this thing started once Fally's show was it's a process. It's an administrative process. Remember, as he said, Blaise said, you cannot call the presidency and they cancel the show, as CY claims. That's impossible. Everything that is done by administration. Administration means that there must be a written thing. You get a discharge, there's a response and all of that. That's how administration works. You cannot sit and call your phone and call any office and they take any action. It's impossible, first of all. So that should tell people that we're living in a place where we don't understand how things work and we think that we can just go, and it misleads people about how things actually work. Because that's what we call the Facebook industry. People have the impression that things are done by noise and all of that. No, there's a way that things work in administration. You write a formal letter, you get a discharge, you get a formal response. They are forced to, if you send a letter to the president is obliged to respond to you, and that's what happens. And so that was a process. Fally Ipupa's show, happened before that process was terminated. Very simply put. And if you want, I'm going to play a voice note where these things being explained, right here. If we need to do that, but that's exactly what happened. So now there was this other issue happening about at the level of the delegate and all of that. CY was probably complaining and sending his complaints. That's fine, and the show got moved to Limba and all of that. But remember what was said to Enobi and Bonte when they came to it. They said, when when Limbe they accepted to the show, and the delegate told me afterwards that, oh, there's a message from hierarchy that we cannot hold the show.
So hierarchy is not the governor of Southwest?
No, it was no longer a decision at this level to say, no, it came from Yaoundé at this stage that we cannot hold the show. I am sorry. And this all happened within a few hours, because at the time when you had accepted, yes, I'm going to hold the show, and they said, no, I'm sorry, I can't do it anymore because there's a message now from which is beyond our powers. Right. So it's not coincidence that he says there's a message of hierarchy, and then the ministry says there's a message of hierarchy. And there is a message of hierarchy. Because as of last week, when was the meeting held at the Ministry of Arts and Culture to discuss it? I'll tell you the day when it was held. Just give me a second. There was a meeting at the Ministry of Arts and Culture, and I was informed of that meeting to discuss this particular issue and how to respond to that. And they asked for my response, which I did. I have I'll share it with you. Yeah. A written response. And just give me a second. Blaise, you're here, right? Yeah. Okay. This was, since this is the director of spectacle at Ministry of Arts and Culture. Mm-hmm. Okay. This is our response, I basically on February 18th. Yeah, this is February 18th when they had the meeting about, and I told her that
that's 4 days after the
4 days after the show. Yes,
it was supposed to take place.
Yes, and she asked for a response. They were going to a meeting. I said, okay, I've spoken with Stanley Eno and Salasiel, and we've agreed that we're going to send a letter directly for you to present to the meeting, and this is the letter, that we sent. It's signed by Stanley Eno, Waxday, and Salasiel. Yeah. And it's saying to the Minister of Arts and Culture, Dear Honorable Minister, limitation of concerts by foreign artists in Cameroon. We wish to express our appreciation, But he said, sir, we are deeply concerned by a new decision to limit the performance of foreign arts in Cameroon. We plead with you to approach the presidency to urgently review any decision in that line for several reasons. One, our artists and urban artists especially depend on international collaborations and foreign shows to make a lot of their income. And this decision is already causing many foreign industries to rebel against Cameroonian artists. I spoke specifically about the Naira Marley concert just cancelled last week. This sentiment from Nigeria is likely to spread to other countries and compromise our performance industry. Mm-hmm. Two, our focus should be on empowering local artists rather than fighting foreign artists. This can be done by ensuring that at least 80% of local music only is played across media, and that our artists get the exposure and limelight they need to help export our music easily. Number three, it is not bad for foreign artists to perform in Cameroon. What is bad is when promoters fail to treat local artists fairly vis-a-vis the foreign artists. Rather than limiting foreign artists to perform in Cameroon, it's better to use their presence to promote local artists by imposing promoters to book at least local artists also and pay them fairly for every show. Therefore, we propose that at least one local artist be booked and paid a minimum of 50% of the fee paid to any foreign artist invited to perform in Cameroon. And this, Honorable Minister, we count on your kind intervention on this important matter. There's already a lot of negative sentiment against Cameroon in foreign online media regarding this matter. And we believe that a swift review will not only avoid a possible cultural Cold War, but also help to use the invitation of foreign artists in Cameroon as a platform to promote local artists and grow the industry further. That was simply it. So this is an administrative process that's going on. So it's very different from what's happening on Facebook. True. And so when I speak, I'm speaking from a position of authority that this is what is happening. And the reality is that the danger of this, to me, and the reason I will talk about this, I'm not talking because it's a trending topic. I'm saying this because tomorrow another show can be cancelled. People are going to lose millions. These things are going to go on because people in Yaoundé sit and they have proximity to the presidency and they can call those shots without understanding the reality. Because the artists that are doing this, they don't know what's happening in the urban music industry. Yeah. They don't know the battles of this young, of Enobi and Bonte. They don't know the battles of Mike Monster, who left Kumba to come and perform and failed it and missed, and what he gave up to come and perform there. They don't know the battles of Naira Marley as an artist, or even the collaborations. He said he was going to do a collaboration with the Cameroonian artist. Whether I did it or not, it's not my business. But then that interaction, that Mike Monster watching how Naira Marley performs gives an idea of, I can integrate this in my shows and it's going to have this impact. This is an idea of how it's going to get its spin. That is the kind of exchange that we need to inspire people and we don't need people who have no idea about it, like the Ikami Brians. It's somebody I respect very much. I'm very clear about it. They don't understand what is happening in this industry right now. And so they might be coming from a good place. They think they're actually trying to protect our industry, which is good. But what we should be doing is now fighting this issue so that we put together positive policies that impact our industry and the older artists such as Ikame Briang in a way that everybody benefits from it. And this is what we're suggesting. Very simply.
In fact, that was actually very simple. Elonge, we all discussed this at length backstage, on stage, try to figure out what exactly is going on. At this point, I think we've exhausted the talk on why it happened what way forward at this point. Elonge, is there anything?
Yeah, I think that Wax has so articulately put it such that I don't even know the point.
You'll be trying to make it right now.
It boggles my mind. I'll tell you something. It boggles my mind. Okay, we have there's 24 art forms in Cameroon, right? Music is one of them.
Yes.
So there's comedy, there's this, there's that. Music is one of them. Music happens to be having the limelight right now. Not because necessarily musicians are are better than anybody.
Yeah.
Because actors are doing a really good job, for example. And I think producers are doing a good job, but music has a limelight. Maybe because we have media such as Trace on that, which is putting us up there. Now, why is it that comedians, actors, fashion designers feel so vested in the music industry that they think they can call the shots? I don't understand.
I think it's a very dangerous precedent to set. Because right now, with you, and I think that what you're saying, I think it's very true in terms of the facts you're giving.
Yeah.
That I think it's dangerous because of the type of information that is prioritized.
Yes.
So we are unable to have this type of discussion and diagnose what the problem is because you have these distractions from
Absolutely.
comedians or upcoming
Exactly.
comedians. And so it becomes a discussion about power.
Yes.
Instead of
About
fixing.
About who was arrogant and who was
Yes.
and so it misses the mark as to what we are supposed to have. And if you don't understand the problem, you cannot have concrete solutions.
Absolutely.
You just be going around in circles. So that's why I find it very dangerous that it's not even comedy.
Yeah.
Because nobody considers for CY is considered a champion by some people, perhaps even many people.
Yeah.
That what he's doing, what he's saying, it's fighting for Cameroon, kind of nationalistic, almost
Yes.
isolationist mindset.
Yes.
And it is very dangerous because it changes the narrative from people saying, people who are vested,
Yes.
actors who are vested in the music industry saying, this is what we want,
Yes.
to go making the debate about Nigeria
Exactly.
and creating this anti-Nigeria pseudo-xenophobic feelings, which nobody really accepts.
about.
Because the debate has not been about this.
And
It has not been about
It's a
some
new right
artists
now.
are disgruntled.
exactly.
When they said people, it first of all had a moral undertone saying, "Oh, Naira Marley takes weed,"
Yeah.
and so if he takes weed,
Pass
the
who?
government pass who?
Pass who? Pass Gasha, pass Jovi, pass Malox.
It goes back to a lot of misinformation that I talked about, because now from what they're saying, we know that it was about a group of artists are disgruntled that they have a lot of foreign artists coming to perform.
Yes.
It had nothing to do with weed and other things. So,
Yeah.
but now you have even people in the industry, in the entertainment industry in Cameroon, who were bringing in this narrative of weed and morality and video and things like that. And like what Elonge said, it's so dangerous because you have the wrong people talking and millions are listening to them.
And you have a whole firestorm in Nigeria,
Yes.
who are saying, okay, I was reading an article the other day from Pulse with this person saying xenophobia is akin to Cameroon.
Exactly.
Because of these type of outings. So I think it's very, very dangerous, and it is not funny. We cannot push it away and say it's a comedian who is saying it. I mean, wars have started for simpler reasons.
For simpler reasons,
So we cannot push it aside and say, oh, it's
Like killing of an archbishop.
No, but in the 80s, right, in the 90s, Makusa was big in Nigeria.
Yes.
Makusa was big in Nigeria, and this and Makusa artists were enjoying because of that. A Cameroonian was in flights. They used to tell me a story that sometimes he would be flying to France, and forget his bobolo. Because funny things like that. And he was so powerful, as an artist, that he would actually charter a flight with somebody just to bring his bobolo to France. because he's not going to perform here. It's not eating his bobolo. So no, you hear things like that. This was the golden age of Makossa, and these guys made a killing. Now things have turned. In Easter of 2015, we spent with Olusegun Obasanjo, with Afrima in his complex, and we had a lot of time to talk with him about the development of Nigerian music industry, and he talked to us about how they were so overwhelmed with Cameroonian music and Congolese music that they had to change things. So he was the one that actually passed the legislation for 80% local content in Nigeria, and invested in things like the Calabar Festival.
Yes.
Which now changed the narrative and got Nigerians to be proud of their own music now until it started developing. And that's why I support people like CY, who even come and say, okay, 180, 20%. That's a good fight to have.
Yes.
But still also we must be careful. If you're going about it in a way that it's about your ego, you're still misleading people. Yes. Because when I see a lot of Facebook, people are screaming, 80-20, 80-20, this, no, that. Things don't work like that, even at that level. Even to get the 80-20, it's something that in the first meeting that we had with the Minister of Arts and Culture, I was with Chichi, with Dynasty Tig. There were a few artists. Tezo Abanda, it was quite a mix of people, the lawyer. We raised the issue of 80-20% in that meeting. And the minister, outlined to us after a lengthy discussion. There was a point where one of the directors even told me, looked at me and said, he told me this were his words, when you want to hide something from a black person, put it in a book. And this is the proof of it that you're coming with this complaint here, because we have a law already that states that 60% of local music we played in 2013. He showed him the law. So I was like, sir, I said yes, but we didn't. The first thing I told him is that, yes, but we didn't ask for 60%. We're asking for 80%. It's a completely different thing. Yeah. And secondly, that 60% is not implemented. It's not even implemented. And the minister was quite smart, because he told us that, things like this are very complex. This thing is legislation. Yeah. Before legislation happens, it's a process. There's no country that's ever passed legislation because people went to Facebook and started screaming. It has never happened. And we're still stuck in that mindset where, because a comedian says this, even if it's not in his realm of this, or because this person says that it happens. No, it doesn't happen like that. You actually have to go now and bring data and say, okay, the law is not being implemented. Where's the proof? You have to now bring data to show that XXX played for so. This is the data. It is not been played. What was this? And then bring, your comparative studies and all that, make your recommendations and put that and go defend it. Yeah. It has to be defended, taken by a parliamentarian who can go now to the cultural word of the parliament and introduce the bill and defend it. Yeah. If it's adopted at that stage, it goes to the next level, it's debated, it comes back, you give feedback, and then you do your Facebook social media thing to attack around it and all of that. That's the process. And now he's saying that we've given you a law that organizes the music sector where these things are in your power. Mm-hmm. How do you organize yourselves now to make sure that, fortunately, I've been put at the head of that structure now. Yeah. But how do you organize yourself now as that organization which is recognized by the state to say, okay, you have the leverage now to now push this in front of parliament. That's what you should be fighting, not coming and screaming on Facebook, which makes sense because that's how things work. And I'm seeing two parts of our industry. One part which is, 98% of our industry which is on Facebook screaming their lungs out about, going around, and 2% which is saying, okay, this is what we should be doing. Okay, as soon as you go to Yaoundé to push in everything, Wax has become a politician. This person has become a politician. No, and things like that. But where are we going to? We're like, how?
Cameroon is so politicized that it is insane not to go just match accordingly to make things to make the changes.
Even about the cancellation of the show was about the situation in southern Cameroon, about the crisis, how the government was fearing that this was going to cause chaos in the area. So I was wondering to what extent did that really have to play, because we know the situation here, we know how Chan took place, and the turnout during Chan wasn't quite massive like that. And when the government starts seeing private individuals using their private run businesses to threaten how much they can really portray themselves to the world, so did that ever have a role to play in terms of the cancellation or the thought process behind why they were going to cancel the show?
I don't think that at any point in time the government will want to cancel a social event that will portray that the young people are not rebellious. You understand? So anyone that pushes that kind of narrative that because it's where there's conflict and things like that, I think it's very untrue. I don't think that any government, and I don't think this current administration that we are under will ever cancel a show I think they can, in fact, cancel a show in Yaoundé or Douala because of the coronavirus, but that cannot happen here because the government wants to give a picture, an idea that people here are living in safety.
But talking about safety and how the government wants to really push that idea and that that perception, during the Chan there were curfews. I think from 6 p.m. people were not really allowed to move out like that. So that's that rumor is based on that.
That curfew basically was not particular to the southwest. If you lived around the stadium in Bepanda, or you live around the stadium in Amadou Ahidjo Stadium in Yaoundé, there's some form of security. And here it was beefed up because separatists or people who want to create chaos can easily infiltrate the population and then create a harm and then do something bad. It wasn't because of any political. It's just like you have maybe an international conference. Anything that you have gathering, you want to protect the people because if anything happens to a football official, you will be held responsible. So that curfew is just to protect and make sure that you're secure. So when you see any person walking the street during the curfew time, you can question the person. I don't think it was something in particular.
But now we do know that the idea of the Anglophone problem was
not the motive
behind. But what he's saying is it was used as a decoy.
Yeah.
That the issue of the cancellation of Naira show was so they took his activities, whether it's with NSAS, the idea of weed and all of that, and said these could be things which we use to radicalize youth in a zone that is already a red zone. And so it's not that the government itself would cancel because there were any red signs, but that this could possibly be a threat in terms of how it could radicalize youth. Now we know that it's not what happened.
I never believed that.
No,
but and also
when you don't have
evidence, you cannot really rule everything out.
I can tell you, I knew for one that authorization could not have been the issue, because I think that it's foolhardy to think that a person who has organized click festivals, who even organized a peace.
Yes.
A peace concert would not know the procedures or even have the connects to get an authorization. So I just thought that was a stretch. I was going with the possibility that the Anglophone crisis could be used, but this is because of the lack of information. Until wax came up, and then even when wax came up, there were still many holes because we're like, who be so invested in getting this cancelled? Because it wasn't put as in my mind, it wasn't like a national thing. It was very regional in my head.
I think that definitely there was a play with CY and his crew, with the ego thing about peddling that, that strategy to say, okay, this is the kind of person.
So you think that CY lying?
Do you think that these people use this strategically?
My thought is this, and I might be wrong about this. CY definitely had pushed that because he was trying to stop the show. And he was not stopping the show because it's a bad thing, it was going to kill Cameroon. He was stopping the show because he has an issue with Bonte and with Enobi, which is first of all wrong. You don't do things like that. First of all, Enobi is not my friend. And I've told him that we are not friends, But when it comes to issues like this, it's beyond me and you. This is our culture. You cannot mess with the nation's culture like that. And so CY would have pushed that angle. And obviously the authorities are aware that was something like that. But is it enough justification? No. Because as I said, Petit Pays has come out naked. Malox, they paid him 20 million for the Orange show, and they paid him that money, and the examples are all there. Nobody stops them. But now, when it comes to this particular show, obviously that was playing in their minds. It played a bit in the mind of the people in Buea. But then Limbe accepted in spite of that, they're going to run the show. Sure. So at this stage, when he says, okay, I'm not going to do it, the reason, and this is where it comes to be critical, the reason that was given in Limbe was that hierarchy. I sent an instruction. It's beyond our powers anymore. We cannot deal with it anymore.
Wax, just ask another question about the whole cancellation and the process behind it, because Nigerian music journalist Joey Akan really did a whole thread about this, and it came out on that serious attack from Cameroonians themselves and even Nigerians, because Nigerians brought issues like I think you even quoted Joy's tweet. I think you quoted Joy's tweet and really criticized
I
it.
didn't believe.
No, because what Mark said,
Yeah.
you said it was misleading. Some people said it was misinformed and ill-informed, and with what you really said based on the communique that was passed from hierarchy.
Yeah.
Joy's account thread really had a lot of this information which he has just talked about right now.
Yeah.
So my issue is, could it be an issue of the hierarchy not also communicating information effectively for people to understand that this is where they stand on a national issue, because it's beyond just them. It's involving individuals and their money, and also a foreign. It's a different country. So because it almost becomes an issue of diplomacy and all of that. So I'm just wondering.
It also just
yes.
to
Yes.
back on what it also seems quite arbitrary
Yeah.
that given the finances that were involved,
Yes.
that the government would just cancel.
You know, and this is where my issue.
Because it wasn't a threat to national
This is where my
security.
issue is, right? And this is where it actually interests me a lot. Because first of all, let me deal with the issue of communication. Then I'll come to the issue of arbitrariness. In terms of the communication, one thing I've realized is that we select what we want to read. We select what we
And very
post.
short things.
And bad news in Cameroon has the unfortunate habit of killing good news, or negative news has the habit of killing positive news, or fake news has the habit of killing real news. In the sense that people were so focused on CY against Inobi and Bonte and the whole drug thing and all that they would miss anything that happened around that. To the point where when we come out and say these things, it's like, no, it was this, it was that, because that is what they want to hear. There's a lot of communication that actually happens in this country. I've realized all of a sudden that we are blind to. We don't even want to see. See, when I go to my page, for example, my page, there's a lot of people that follow my page. So I never put anything on my page by error. Never ever. Because my page is followed by people in the UK, in the US, in Nigeria, in South Africa. Like they come to pick out the picture.
And they don't get, just to make that clear, they don't get.
So, when I put out information, for example, about government communiques, about things that impact the music industry, things that people should actually know, nobody's very interested. But if I say, okay, Naira Marley has been cancelled because of this, that. Oh, well, okay, yeah, people want to come and give their opinions on all of that, And I've picked that up. When the law was passed, for example, the whole law about associations, which is something that we could use to counter things like this, and I was explaining why urban artists need to be involved. Urban artists will not even read that. And if they came, I had several people that came and lambasted me as a response to that post when I explained the whole thing. And then came to my inbox and said, well, stop that rubbish. And when I explained to them what I written in the post, like, oh, we didn't know this. I'm like, no, but it's in the post that you commented on. I'm like, that's the reality of who we are. So, unfortunately, I've realized that there's no quick fix to this unless we get engaged. And that's why I was saying we need to be involved, because
just that before we round up and stuff, like the involvement is what we really need at this point, because the show has been cancelled. Yes, it is done. Even if we ban Nigeria music, ban every other country's music in Cameroon or any other foreign artists from coming to Cameroon, what now? Like, what is supposed to be done domestically to save us, all of us?
The issue is that, as I was coming to that actually, that the president is acting on the request of a group of artists. And so when they're doing that, they think they're protecting the artists.
So are you saying there was a disconnect in the urban artists and this group of artists?
There is a big disconnect.
This group of artists you're talking about wield enough power to be considered authorities.
Absolutely.
And I'll tell you why they wield that power. Because the urban artists have let them take that power.
Right.
The government is not against urban artists taking that position. And this was one of the first things that we did. We went to a meeting with the minister, we wrote a letter to the presidency in requesting that urban artists be given a seat in the management structures of music music organizations in Cameroon. We got a positive response. And on that basis, a directive was sent from the presidency that urban artists must be involved in anything that is happening. Now, what is actually happening is that the ministry is calling urban artists, going to look for them. They don't have that power, but because urban artists don't want to be there. Now, what happens is that when a group of artists go and say that they feel, artists have said this is what artists want.
So they're acting the interest of the interest.
As an umbrella body.
As an umbrella body, yes. Whereas it's because we have run away. So if you see me now calling Sati and Stanley, hey, let's do this, because I want them to feel like, okay, we are involved. We go, we write that, and we send to them, and they will react to it.
But how do you get unity?
Yeah.
Between to bring these different factions?
Yeah.
See, I would imagine that the other artists would be people like Amapiaho, it can be Brigham, of a certain generation, and of a certain musical taste even. How do you get this so that we don't have a repetition of this type of situations that actually harm the industry?
And I think that's we have no other option but to get our urban artists to be interested and to present themselves for those things, and to show that, hey, we want to know, because believe it or not, the government is listening to urban artists. The government wants to know what urban artists want.
Then why do you think that the urban artists are not believing the government? Because because that's where
there's one thing. The first thing is the struggle, the current struggle now. So if you go to fight for something that involves the music industry, people automatically say that, oh no, you're going to, you're taking the side of one side and that, and then they feel like you're losing it, But we are at a stage where people need to understand that part of the struggle is going and grabbing your rights. So you can't be running a music industry in a space where it's controlled in Yaoundé and you want not to do that and you let other people run everything. There's billions in Sonacam, SADV, and those organizations that are there. Money is coming to the federation. Who's going to run those things? Those guys. And we already have seen an example of how they view the industry and the kind of actions they will take. So, exactly. And that's where my key issue is. This is just an indicator of what I've known for a long time, and I've been telling artists in Cameroon that unless you go there and take that position, you'll start seeing things hitting you. And they've been hitting them and they don't know. There's money that is circulating in the music industry that urban artists have no idea about. And guess where the money who is generating the income? The urban artists. So a lot is happening, and it just takes a few people to be interested enough to say we want to be, I'm doing what I can. I cannot do all of it. And at a certain stage, if I'm tired, I'll come and say, oh, no, I have to release an album now. So, but at a certain stage, we need to somehow get more involved in this. And that is why it's important that we come back to the question. Comedians, actors, there are so many issues in the comedy sector that need to be addressed. Please address them. There are many issues in the acting sector. Please address them. Yes. Please address them and leave music to musicians. Let's solve our problems.
I really, it's a fascinating obsession with the music industry. Like I'm like, but why are you guys so invested?
I think
stalking.
I think also because the musicians are always asking. They are always in the demanding end. So they are always complaining that they don't get support. So when you talk to people too much, you get to demand too much from them. They feel entitled. I think if you have someone like CY speaking as a comedian is a form of entitlement. So he feels like maybe I patronize DJs who play Cameroonian song and so I'm this Superman and now I can talk about. So I feel like also
I think this whole thing has made a lot of leaders who are not supposed to lead the movement, you see. So we would have a Wax Day, we would have a Stand, we would have a Salatiel, who ideally should be authorities in the music industry. Yeah. And we have to depend on a comedian to get information. It's quite shocking. It's not annoying.
And I think it's also the problem also goes with people like Was Day and Stanley and Salatiel. These are great artists, but they also need to fight hard and take their power. If someone goes to the presidency and say, ban this show, and it is done, it means that at some point, you guys are not fully taking your responsibility.
I think he just said,
that's part of the problem, because if someone can walk in or some people can walk up to the presidency and say, oh, you need to stop this guy from performing, it means that your influence is not as huge as it should.
No, but the thing is that that's the problem. But so here's the thing. That's why I talked about taking the position. So if a group of us organize and go do a particular thing, we're not aware behind our backs. It hits us. All we can do is react, and that's what we're doing actually. So the point of this whole communication with the ministry is a reaction to what's happening.
So when you do this reaction, you, Stanley,
and Salatiel,
yes, in itself. How does it unite the urban artists behind you? Do you have some form of consultation with them where in speaking, they have the feeling that you are also speaking in one voice?
Because even before you respond, even with the issue of Naira Marley, I know urban artists who I can name here who were also against. I mean, there were four. They showed, for example, Mel B. Yeah. She jubilated. She was so.
No, but maybe it's now in Yaoundé. So
So you only get to corrupt people. Eh?
No, it is not.
Oh, okay.
But here,
I think it's disrespectful for us to talk about her on this show.
Yeah, I'm not.
Don't mind, but
As we are disrespecting the show.
all right.
It's beneath.
Please go on. Whilst we are answering the question.
But the thing is that you're right. You're right. You know, the urban music is disjointed. But you know, again, it comes before I answer. You know, about how we're working to unite it. You know, that doesn't give the moral authority to comedians or anybody to do that, because I believe that they are more disorganized than we are. You know, they are more disjointed. You know, the highest form of organization I've seen, you know, among other industries, and I would say this now because it looks like, you know, is WhatsApp groups, and those unfortunately, WhatsApp groups, and from WhatsApp groups they think everything can happen, but you know, with music, the reality we're facing that is there's a big divide, and not just among Anglophones. You know, like when I go to Yaoundé, for example, with Sarasiel, Daphne, and them, you know, just wait 2 days afterwards, Francophone artists will get together and call me like, Wax, so you brought these guys and you come do your things. What about us? That always happens. And it's been a big fight, even just to get Anglophones and Francophones to get together. You know, I was fighting a couple of months ago to get Dynasty and Salasia to sit together and solve a problem they've had for 3 years. With none of them talking to each other. For the first time they spoke, you know, I was like, wow. And then I realized there was really no problem. It was a misunderstanding of their managers 3 years ago. Yeah. And so these are things that we're dealing with on a constant basis. And it's not easy, but it's a start. Remember, it's just last year that we started this whole process. You know, it's a start. And increasingly, you know, I think that we get to a point where urban artists will now get into those places. Now it's a start. For the first time, they've named me at the head of the federation. You know, it's a part of that process where, okay, they're saying, okay, you're complaining so much. Now here it is. What are you going to do? My next task will be to unite these people, to bring the young into and say, okay, you know, that is my challenge. It's a challenge I'm going to take on head on. I might succeed, I might fail. But the important thing is that we've identified the problem and we're working on it. And we really need to call on people to give us a chance, to give us that freedom to work and solve these problems with you know, minimal interference. We appreciate the goodwill. You know, when CY talks about 80-20%, it's a good thing. When he talks about fair treatment of artists, it's a really good thing, and we encourage that. You know, but there's a stage where, you know, we cannot take these heavy challenges, because these are big challenges, playing at a very big level, and simplify them in a way that it estranges the urban artists that we're supposed to be bringing into our fight. Right. Because it's giving them a wrong impression of how the fight should be. We know them, yeah, exactly.
Wax, you already mentioned something about channels and communication. You talked about WhatsApp, and from what you've said, you already understand how influential that platform is. Yeah. So I'm wondering how you plan on optimizing these different channels, which these young artists are already used to and they connect with, because at the end of the day, you really acknowledge how much information gets missing along the way with the noise that happens. Yeah. So is it part of your plan to really include them through these channels, which they naturally feel at home with, in terms of bringing them together and then driving your agenda?
A huge part of my mandate is actually that unifying, because you know, the minister really dreams of seeing these things broken and coming together. You know. Unfortunately, as you said again, you know, there's 2 kinds of WhatsApp groups in Cameroon, in the Cameroon music industry. The urban music and the younger artists have their own WhatsApp groups, and then the younger entertainers, Cameroon Entertainment Billboard and those things, talent acts and them, where they discuss their issues. And it's really issues at that level. It has nothing to do with who's running stuff, our money, our this, you know. It has nothing to do with the real issues that affect them, like what happened with Naira Marley. There's a group of other, you know, musicians, mostly the older musicians, who have connects with either the presidency and the ministries and all of those, who understand, who are seeing the money, who understand these issues, and they are dealing with the hard issues. Where's the money coming from Sonacam? What happened to CRT's 350 million? What happened to the 6-7 million that Brazil was paying was supposed to pay 2 weeks ago? Why did Ango go with Atebazo to go and negotiate this money, whereas he's the president of the... Those are issues in the industry, you know. And Joanne has been to Nigeria. She knows all about artist guilds and things like that, you know. The minister has tried to impose that in Cameroon, which is supposed to bring everybody together under one umbrella. And the younger artists are pissed, are unhappy about it, because they're controlling them, not controlling the industry. Whereas all the advanced industries in the world have that already. Nigeria, South Africa, United States, all have that already. Now, the older artists are very happy about it, because they're seeing it, it's a solution to this thing that we're discussing here. And now, I'm part of these 2 groups. I'm in both sides, and I'm looking, and I'm like, what the hell is happening? My key challenge now, and which is one of my mandates, is how to fuse them together, to make sure that everybody comes on the same platform and speaks the same language. Yeah. When I ran for Sonacam elections, there was one simple reason why I lost. So Nakama has about 5,000 active members. Out of those, about 1,000 members are the older musicians. 4,000 are the younger ones. They went to a general assembly, which was not attended by any young person among the older people, and they voted that only the older artists can vote.
Yeah.
And it was adopted because it was a general assembly.
Yes.
So come elections, no younger, so I had to go and compete against the OPA and themselves. So we've been systematically kicked out because they have the power to do it. It was legal. They sat in there, they were represented, there was no urban arts, there was no, our whole thing was not there. And now they get to make all decisions about what happens to our money, to our this and that, whereas we are the ones doing the work to generate the money now in the industry. So somehow, I think that's a challenge, but we're going to get there.
We will. And that's what we're going to call off this discussion. For now, we can continue the discussion. Wax is very available. Blaise is available online. Elonge, as well as Yana, myself, all of us are very, very available online. If you want to continue the discussion, please drop your comments down there in the comment section. We are all going to be there to share with you and try to see how we can move past this situation, right? The show has been canceled, done deal. But how do we get our artists on board? How do we get to listen to our own songs? How do we get to build ourselves as individuals and the industry as a whole? So please do not feel neglected. As Wax says, everybody's involved. So please get on deck. We need you, and you also need us, right? Including the artists. And that's where we're going to end for today. Thank you, Wax. Thank you, Blaise, Core, and Yana. Thank you so much for joining us. And everybody who's watching the show, thank you. And to all our Nigerian friends, media, and artists and entertainers, we love you. Please take that whole nonsense out of your head that we do not love you and we're trying to attack you or don't want you in our country. We need you. We love you. And please, 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 this is One Africa, One Love.
Contact Jungle Studios, which is located at Solidarity Junction, Buea, for all your photography and videography.
The 2021 Sama Randy Youth Right Contest has been launched. It is running under the theme, Dear Cameroon, We Need to Talk. Better Breed Cameroon invites you to engage your fellow citizens and leaders in conversation on what you deem is pertinent for peace, reconciliation, and the way forward. Your paper may take the form of a dialogue, essay, speech, open letter, or proposal as contributor to or facilitator or convener of an inclusive national dialogue. Please visit www.betterbreedcameroon.org for more details.